oscillates like a top. It's rotating, said one of the pilots in bewilderment. More than a decade later, others are calling for a thorough investigation, including President Obama, former CIA Director R. James Woosley, and Senator Marco Rubio of Florida, who serves on the Senate Intelligence Committee. And he said that the stigma associated with talking about potential UFOs shouldn't stand in the way of a serious probe into what is taking place. Now, John Ratcliffe, who served as the Director of National Intelligence under Donald Trump, said this spring that there were many more UAP sightings than were publicly released, than we publicly knew about. In other words, we're telling you about 120. There's a whole lot more than that. In fact, we're talking about, this is according to John Ratcliffe, Director of the National Intelligence under President Trump. We are talking about objects that have been seen by Navy or Air Force pilots or have been picked up by satellite imagery that frankly engage in actions that are difficult to explain, movements that are hard to replicate, that we don't have the technology for, or are traveling at speeds that exceed the sound barrier without a sonic boom. He said this during a Fox News interview. Now, one senior defense official who spoke on the condition of anonymity because the reports detailed were not made public said one possible explanation is that the aircraft belonged to adversarial nations harnessing unknown technology. The Pentagon is increasingly focusing on competition with Russia and China, which are making strides in advanced technology, including hypersonic and directed energy. Now, according to the UAP experts, some of the observed aircraft have no wings or physical elements of thrust or propulsion, or can change directions at high speeds with ease. Some of the UAPs lack the telltale signs of terrestrial construction. In other words, there's no rivets or bolts holding this thing together. Others have flown low enough and appear to vanish below the surface, which is observed in a video leaked by UFO enthusiast Jeremy Corbell last month. Now, vehicles that can operate in the water and air have design trade-offs, but no UAP in the video did appear to have any of these compromised. That's according to Luis Elizondo. Now, Elizondo said the entire report, which is expected to include an unclassified section known as the classified annex, should be released to the public. Elizondo said, wherever these technologies come from, they are clearly far more advanced than any earthly technology known to our intelligence services. That nomenclature is important because if reporting on the impeding report is accurate, Elizondo said, we urgently need our best scientific and intelligence collection tools applied to understand what our pilots are missing. So, what it is not, it's not ours. So they're really leaving three possibilities. The Chinese, the Russians, somebody else. Now, the Pentagon's highly anticipated report, it's been briefed by officials. We talked about all that. But the Pentagon is growing increasingly concerned. The Pentagon is growing concerned at the spate of mysterious UFOs captured on video and the fact that China and Russia are experimenting with hypersonic weapons. Now, the U.S. intelligence community is set to release a report on mysterious UFO sightings back on July 25th. Again, we're reiterating. But senior officials have already been briefed on the report's findings, and they've issued a terrifying warning. Now, NBC's Today correspondent Stephanie Gosk said, and I quote, "The Pentagon has looked into videos from an upside-down pyramid-like object hovering over a Navy destroyer and cylindrical spheres disappearing under the ocean." Now, these intelligence officials are worried that the videos show America's adversaries may be racing ahead of the U.S. in developing elite weapons technology. That could show China or Russia are possibly experimenting with hypersonic technology, including aircraft or missiles with speeds of up to 4,000 miles an hour. A jet plane goes 400, folks. That's 10 times faster than a jet airplane. Passenger jet airplane, like a 737. Now, she said, and we're talking again about Stephanie Gosk, NBC Today's correspondent, Ms. Gosk said that it could show China or Russia are possibly experimenting with the hypersonic aircraft. She also said that there are more than the 120 incidents over these past 2 decades investigated in the report. And again, they've ruled out experimental U.S. aircraft. Ms. Gosk also explained both China and Russia have been investing heavily in hypersonic technology, which would give them the ability to evade U.S. missiles. If they get that kind of an edge, it would be a significant concern for the U.S. military. Again, that's huge. Democratic Senator Mark Heinrich from New Mexico told NBC, there is enough obvious evidence here that we need to take this seriously and not downplay it. Again, Marco Rubio, Mark Heinrich, United States Senators. These are not MUFON people. They're not on a coast-to-coast guest, okay? Now, the report apparently claims that the objects are either secret, advanced aircraft from other countries, or not of this earth. Again, that's according to the New York Times. Now, in a blow to alien enthusiasts, intelligence officials have found no evidence confirming that UFO encounters by U.S. Navy pilots in recent years were extraterrestrial, but they don't rule it out. U.S. Representative Michael Waltz, who's a member of the House Armed Services Committee, told CNN, quote, "It's disturbing either way, you know. Is this alien life, or do adversaries or someone else have the capabilities that far exceed anything that we have the ability to understand, track, or counter? Either way, it's really bad." And again, a lot of this sounds redundant, but the reason I'm doing it is because you've got many people singing from the same sheet of music. Senators, U.S. representatives, CIA people, former presidents, a lot of people in a lot of very high places saying a lot of very, very disturbing things. Now, the findings in the report make it very clear, eminently clear, that the Navy pilots did not accidentally stumble upon secret government aircraft, but it does not identify what the objects are. That's still one more report or one more person. That's why I'm saying it again. Those who worked on this report said because it is inconclusive, the government could not assuredly rule out alien spacecraft theory. Now, interest in UFOs and alien life forms have picked up in recent weeks in light of the upcoming report. Likewise, more videos of UFOs have been made public and are widely shared online. As a result, more people are joining a growing theory that the government is aware of alien life. More concerning, however, most concerning, in my opinion, is that others believe the government is unaware of such life and this is most important, would be defenseless against them in the future. And there, dear listeners, therein lies the rub. This government report basically says these sightings are real. They're not swamp gas. They're not weather balloons. They're not the planet Venus. And by the way, we are now encouraging military pilots to report more and more of these. They're not brushing it under the carpet. They're encouraging more. And this is the truly disturbing part, to me anyway. And we have no weapon to counter them. No means to defend ourselves against them. No point to their no counterpoint to their point. Now the report says that they're either China or Russia or extraterrestrial. I'm going to repeat that because that's the biggest part of the report to me. It's not this, or that. It's door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. China, Russia, extraterrestrial. Now that, dear listeners, is truly frightening. I have been asking for full disclosure for decades. The most sobering fact about this report may well be that this is full disclosure. I mean, think about it. They're not telling us everything, but maybe they're telling us everything that they know. That's disturbing. In other words, this is full disclosure because we don't know what these are, and we never did. Now, while the China or Russia theory could be correct, I don't think so. And here's why I don't think it's the China or Russia thing. because this is nothing new, okay? So it doesn't explain UFO sightings from decades ago when we know that China or Russia couldn't have had this technology, okay? Decades ago. Roswell was not China or Russia. Well, some say Russia, but that's another story for another day. The conspiracy theory that says it was actually Nazis who worked for the Russians that put in mutants, et cetera, and we didn't want to admit that a Russian craft had crashed in New Mexico because that means that they will have gotten in that far into our country without us knowing. But anyway, for decades, we've been seeing these. Military people have been seeing these. So we really don't know. And we never did. We just never did. And again, if it was China or Russia, maybe now, but this is nothing new. Let's say the ET theory is correct, that these spacecraft are from someplace else. If that's correct, dear listeners, we better hope to God that the visitors are one kind people. Now, what of the classified annex? What could the classified annex contain? I mean, the law clearly says full disclosure. You got to tell us everything. And they're saying, yeah, we're going to tell you everything except for that. Now, what is the stuff that they're not going to tell us? Is it proof of extraterrestrials? Is it shadow government Illuminati information? Is it time travel? And let me expand on that after I take a sip of water. That's been one of my theories for a long time, and a theory that others have as well, is that it could be time travel. And when I say time travel, you think, well, you can't travel in time, Strong. Well, yeah, we can't. But what if we could in 200 years? Now, before you think that's silly, what you have to remember is, where were we 200 years ago? Well, forget about listening to a podcast, because there were no such things as computers or or radios or electricity for that matter. Okay. 200 years ago, if you cut yourself and didn't put medicine on it and you got a bad infection, you probably died. Okay. Many children died in childbirth. People died of ear infections. True. Don't not disbelieve me. Look it up. A lot of kids died from ear infections back then. Okay. They had no antibiotics. They had no refrigerated food. They had no automobiles. Okay. They barely had railroads. 200 years ago, we were in the dark ages. 15 years ago, we didn't have smartphones like we have now. So let's say that 200 years from now, we continue to advance our technology. For 200 years, between now and 200 years from now, we continue to advance just at the rate that we have in the last 20 years. Is it not possible that we'll figure out how to travel in time? And could these visitors just be someone from 200 years ago coming back here to look at us, to check us out? And really, in my opinion, that would be the most sobering. That would be the safest of them all, is that they're coming back here through another dimension, through time travel or whatever, just to check things out. Because if it's the Chinese or the Russians, we can't defend against this. And if we can't defend against the Chinese and the Russians, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to want to take the lead in the world, and there's little that we can do to stop them. If it's an extraterrestrial life force that's scouting us out and thinking, you know what, all these little people running around this place, they would make good slaves or they would make good food. There's nothing we could do about it except for prepare ourselves for the slaughter. Now, if it's us from 200 years from now coming back just to check things out, that might be the most relieving, I guess, the one with the least threat. And you may say, well, why are you talking about time travel, Strong? Well, here's what you need to consider. And here's something that I've always considered. Years ago,